The Smell of Molasses by Catherine Rogers. I was just 11 years old the day of the Great Molasses Flood of 1919. I remember some details clearly. Others are just a blur. But one thing I will never, ever forget is the smell of molasses. To this day, I can't eat sweets made with molasses. Even before the flood, you could smell it most days. Molasses came in from far away, warm places like Cuba and Puerto Rico, on ships. It was stored in an immense round tank, maybe 50 feet high and almost twice as wide. The smell wafted over most of the North End. And after the flood? Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, we used to walk home from school to eat lunch back then. It was a fine, sunny day. Nice for Boston in January. My older brother Patrick and I were on our way home. We walked under the L, a raised railway along the river. Patrick held up a small pail. "Let's go by the tank. Ma promised to make gingerbread if I bring her molasses. And maybe we'll see Da." I wasn't keen. "Let's go home, Patty. Da's probably out on errands anyway." "Come on with ya. Gingerbread." Ma's gingerbread was good, and Patrick most often got his way. So off we went, the long way around. It may seem strange to you that we could just help ourselves to molasses, but the tank had always leaked. It was built after the Great War started, just a few years earlier. Neighborhood kids would fill up cups and pails from the leaks. And the Purity Distilling Company workers knew our father. Da drove a mule cart, running errands and making deliveries for the company. They rarely shooed us away. In 1919, sweets weren't as common as nowadays. We used molasses to sweeten cakes, and we poured it over cornbread, biscuits, and flapjacks. And sometimes we just dipped spoons or fingers in and licked them to enjoy the sweetness. But molasses isn't just sweet. It's got a taste that's like slightly burned caramel with a little coffee and something like cinnamon mixed in. It's got a pungent, spicy smell. That day, we noticed that the tank was leaking more than ever before. Patrick's pail filled right up. Despite the cold weather, the gooey molasses flowed quickly. Mr. Gonzalez, who lived on our block, was a worker there. He rounded the side of the tank. He was looking up at it and talking in urgent tones to another worker. "See there, do you, Ollie? Look how the metal is flaking." Ollie grunted and replied, "The leaks are worse today, too." Mr. Gonzalez's eyes followed the flow of one leak down to us, standing with our shoes in a wide, sticky puddle. I worried we might be in trouble for helping ourselves, but he smiled. "Go on, Eileen, Patrick. We're not going to climb way up there." He pointed to the top of the covered 50-foot tank to pour a pint back in. Just then, a loud, strange, grinding, groaning noise came from the tank, and all four of us instinctively moved away. Ollie asked, "Did you tell Mr. Gell?" Mr. Gonzalez snorted. "I told him about the noises and the leaks. I showed him some metal that flaked off. He's no engineer. All he knows is money. He told me to caulk the leaks, as if you can, while molasses pours through the cracks." He spat. Then he asked me if I want to keep my job. Ollie gave a low whistle. "Well, that's that, ain't it? Do what the boss tells you and keep quiet, huh?" They continued on around, still talking. Patrick and I trotted home. We climbed the 4 flights of stairs to our flat, ate our lunch, and went back to school. The next day, we went straight home for lunch, and a good thing that was. I remember this clearly. We were sitting at the kitchen table next to the north window and eating colcannon, cabbage and potatoes, made like back in Ireland, when we heard a terrible noise just a few blocks away. First, it was a loud, tearing, rending sound. Then a bang, bang, bang. It was that metal tank exploding, being torn apart by the weight of more than 2 million gallons of molasses. Rivets flew from the tank's seams in all directions. In the distance, from our apartment's perch along Copp's Hill, we could see a huge brown wave. At first, almost as tall as the tank itself. That's as tall as a 5-story building. It tumbled and spread, more like mud or lava than water. It was so thick and dark. Patrick, Ma, and I gaped. We saw whole buildings overwhelmed and collapsing, and cars and horse-drawn wagons being swept along in the strange brown tide. Then Ma said in a strange, shaky voice, "Your doll might be down there." "Come on," Patrick cried, and we all grabbed coats and hats. Then through the door and down the stairs we scrambled. We headed for the loading dock at the company building closest to the L, but we couldn't get anywhere near it. At an intersection within a block of our house, we encountered the Molasses. We were at the edge of the spill, but it was still far too deep and sticky to wade through. Paddy tried and almost lost his boots in the rolling, pungent muck. They came right off his feet. He got his arms covered in sludgy molasses getting them back. We made our way back down the block, trying to skirt the strange and dangerous flood. The smell was overwhelming. We could hear the clanging of bells on fire trucks and shouts of people escaping the area, or trying to. The shrieking whinnies and braying of horses and mules caught in the flood, many still harnessed to overturned vehicles, are still with me to this day. A young sailor from the nearby USS Nantucket blocked our way. He shouted at us to stay clear of the area. "Gawkers only get in the way!" "My husband, he works for the Purity Distilling Company. We're trying to find him," Ma explained, her chin trembling. "Can't you help us?" His look softened. "I'm here to help. Let's try going around by Charter Street." And he led the way. Sure enough, Charter was high enough that we could get closer to where the tank had exploded. As we walked downhill, we began to see how terrible the damage was. Whole buildings had collapsed and been swept away. Trolleys were smashed. We saw rescuers surrounding what was left of the Clougherty's house, which had been swept right off its foundation. They shouted and struggled with the sticky wreckage. We scanned the area, looking for any sign of Da's cart, or Babe, his mule. By now, the flood had mostly spent itself. We found that we could walk in the molasses, now sometimes just shin or ankle deep, if we shuffled our shoes or boots forward without raising our feet much. It was terribly slow going. We came upon one smashed cart and my heart jumped into my mouth. But it wasn't the right cart. The animal that had been pulling it was a horse, not Babe. We walked on. As we neared the place where the molasses tank had been, we saw something moving among the wreckage. "Over there!" Patrick yelled. The sailor shuffled over to where Patrick pointed, and he found a child a little younger than me. He was moving feebly and beginning to cry piteously. He wiped at his coated face with his coated hands, making headway only where tears helped clean away the syrup. He had a bad cut on his head. "Hey, lad," said the sailor kindly, raising the boy to sitting. "Let's have a look." By now, Ma had also reached the boy. She pressed her handkerchief against the boy's cut, which made him keen loudly. She spoke to him soothingly. Here now. You've made it. You've survived. It's a miracle." The boy sobbed weakly and mumbled in Italian. I could make out Maria and Mama. The sailor said, "I don't think he can walk." He pointed at Patrick. "You and I can carry him." Patrick started to object. "What about Da?" Ma said firmly, "This boy needs help. We help him, and maybe someone else is helping your Da, or he's helping them." I handed Ma my scarf so she could tie up the makeshift bandage. "Eileen," Ma said, "run back up Charter Street and ask for help. A doctor or fireman, someone with a wagon, anyone." I shuffled out of the goo. It seemed to take forever. It was like a bad dream where you have to run but can't because your legs are too slow. I still have nightmares where I am running in Molasses. I passed the Clougherty house and saw firemen helping Martin Clougherty. I was astonished to see him come out of the smashed house alive. Finally, I reached uphill ground and began running up Charter Street, calling, "Help!" As I neared the burying ground, I saw a truly joyful sight. I burst into tears and sobbed out, "Da! Da!" He was driving Babe toward me. I ran to his cart and jumped up alongside him. "We were looking for you, and you're okay," I said into his ear as he hugged me tight. "Where's Patty and Ma? What's happened? People are saying there's been an explosion." "Da, keep going. They're down here. We need help because there's a boy and he's hurt and—" Da gave Babe a curt walk on. The streets were in confusion, vehicles including ambulances coming and going, as well as more sailors on foot. Some aimless people looking excited and curious too. Gawkers, I guess. Eventually, I spied our sailor and Patrick carrying the boy between them with Ma behind. I shouted to them. When they saw it was Da come to help, Patrick and Ma cried out with relief. We got the boy into the cart and said goodbye to the sailor. We hadn't ever learned his name. Da turned Babe and headed toward the hospital. Patrick and Ma and Da all began talking at once about how we'd seen the tank explode and been afraid Da was there, and how he'd been afraid we kids were there. He had been perfectly safe, he said, well on the other side of town. He was collecting papers for Mr. Gell, as well as a large order of caulk that could never have stopped the Molasses. We got that poor little boy to the hospital. His name was Anthony, and he eventually recovered from his injury and fright. He had been walking home with his sister, Maria. She died in the explosion. 20 others did too, and 150 were injured. The Purity Distilling Company tried to blame others for the explosion, and there was a long fight in the courts. The final ruling was that the company hadn't built the tank properly and hadn't done anything to fix the problems, Mr. Gonzalez reported. Fireboats used salt water to hose the molasses off the streets. It turned Boston Harbor brown. And for years you could smell molasses, especially after a rain.